Hey, I wanted to talk about this week's assignments. I just got off a video conference with another student, and I wanted to clarify a few things. After talking with her, I wanted to clarify a few things with the rest of you to make sure that everyone understood. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by sharing my screen. I'm going to actually bring up each of the assignments that you may have questions about this week, or I think you may have questions about this week. So let me pull those up. The first one that we're going to look at together is this assessment box web. And excuse me for not looking at the camera, but I'm actually looking at my other screen where this is pulled up. So the assessment box web, um, the idea for this is that after you do your readings on the different assessment types this week, you're going to create one box web, not 8, one box web. And it says create a box web graphic organizer for the 8 different types of assessment that can be used as a template. So I know that may sound like you're creating 8, you're not. You're creating 1. Now, if you've already created 8, don't go back and fix it. Just leave it the way it is, and I'll give you credit for the 8. But if you're only creating 1, that's the idea. And the reason why it's the idea is because you're going to use this box web as a model or as a plan for your mind map. Your mind map, after you've looked at some of the examples of that, the center of the mind map might say assessment types. And then all the different pieces that go out would be the different types of assessment. That's kind of the idea. So on the mind or on the box web, what you're going to do is you're going to go through the 8 different assessment types. So the center box might be assessments, and then around it, you're going to have the 8 assessment types and a definition of each one or something along those lines. Something that will help me understand that you understand what they are. And so it walks through here. Here's the different videos that talk about the different assessment types, plus what's in your Buell textbook for this week should cover everything that you need to know about assessment types. So that's the box web assignment. Again, one box web for all 8 assessment types. And so that's that assignment. So the next one I want to talk about, I'm actually going to kind of go backwards on this. So one of the assignments that opened up is your strategy notebook. So I'm going to open up that one next. The strategy notebook is due towards the end of the course. It's actually due, let me go down here to the bottom just to look real quick. It's due July 5th. So basically right before the course is over. And the reason for is it's fairly involved. It's a fairly involved assignment. But once I explain it to you, I think you'll understand that you're actually going to be working on it all semester long by doing other assignments in the class. This is the rare time where a professor is going to allow you to use assignments that you've done for one assignment, or use work that you've done for one assignment and apply it to work towards another assignment. And what am I talking about here? Well, I'm talking about, for example, the mentor text assignment that you should be completing by the end of this week has 9 different strategies that you are going to be using, and there's a template at the bottom of that assignment, and we'll get to that in a minute. I'm going to go back to the mentor text assignment in a minute. But at the bottom of the mentor text assignment, there's a format that I put there for you. Some of you followed it, a couple of you didn't. But the idea here is that if you follow that format, then you can use the work that you did for that one for your before, during, and after reading strategies for 9 of your before, during, and after reading strategies. So that's going to take you down from 30 strategies for this assignment down to 21. And there's a couple of other opportunities you'll have this semester to do exactly the same thing for some of the other assignments if you follow the same format. So let's talk about that for a minute. All right. So let me explain the directions here so that you know what you're going to be doing. What you're going to be doing is creating an online notebook. So it's not going to actually be a book that you're going to put together, although I recommend that you maybe print these out and put them in a book so that when you're a teacher, you'll have these strategies to go back to. But what I like to say on this is, if you use the teacher edition of the, it says use the teacher edition textbook you checked out from the library. You're not actually going to be doing that. Matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and edit that. It says use a teacher edition textbook you checked out from the library, mentor text sets, Buell textbook for this course, other readings, the internet. I'm going to actually edit this right now and take that piece out, this part right here. because you didn't do that. There you go. And let me go ahead and save that real quick. The reason I didn't have you do the teacher edition of the textbook this semester is because it would have been too hard for y'all to get that in the summertime. All right. Anyway, using those sources, I want you to come up with strategies for pre-reading, during reading, after reading, vocabulary strategies, English language learner strategies, and special population strategies. Now, you did English language learners last week. We are going to be doing vocabulary and special populations a little bit later on. But the idea here is that there are 6 different areas that I want you to pick 5 strategies for each area. So 5 times 6 is 30 total strategies, is what that says. This will result in 30 separate strategies. Now, let me tell you the difference between a strategy and a mentor text. So if I were teaching, say, science, and during the science lesson, I was teaching life cycles, and I was going to teach life cycles of a butterfly, for example, it might be good to bring in some mentor text like The Very Hungry Caterpillar by Eric Carle, which has at the very end, as the caterpillar goes and eats all kinds of things, at the very end of the book, it has the caterpillar, the pupa or cocoon, and then finally the butterfly. So is this book about the life cycle of a butterfly? No. This book is about a caterpillar that's eating all kinds of crazy stuff, but it has the life cycle in it. I could pick for lower grades, I could pick the 10 Wriggly Wiggly Caterpillars as the book that I was going to use as a mentor text. Why? Because it has, throughout the book, it has all these caterpillars that are slowly counting down. It's kind of a neat book the way it's laid out. And when we get down to the last caterpillar, then we've got 10 butterflies. So it talks about 2 of the stages in the life cycle of a butterfly. Another book that I can use, if I wanted to, is this one by Don DeLuise called Charlie the Caterpillar. Charlie the Caterpillar is a book about bullying. It is not about the life cycle of a butterfly. But Charlie, who is a brand new caterpillar just born, eventually get to that page, after getting bullied, eventually goes and spins a cocoon, and then after the winter comes, he comes out of his cocoon, and it's a great book, by the way, and eventually out pops his wings, and he becomes a butterfly. Now, that's the life cycle of a butterfly. Those are mentor texts. A mentor text is a text that augments the textbook that you would use in the classroom, typically written at a higher reading level, therefore needing the support of mentor texts and strategies. Strategies are things like before, during, and after reading strategy, like a KWL chart, or in the case of the example that I use over and over again, an anticipation guide for before reading strategies. So a strategy is actually, it doesn't have to be a graphic organizer. It could be simply checking for understanding. It could be playing a game that has the ideas of the text in it, okay? But the strategy that you use has to be something that you can explain the steps in and everything else. So let's talk about what you're going to have for each strategy, okay? Because I think it's important that you make sure you include all these things, because that's really how I score this, and this is a big part of your grade. So each strategy will contain the area heading, an APA citation. So the area heading, by the way, is either pre-reading, during reading, after reading, vocabulary, English language learners, or special populations. That's the area heading, the area that you're going to be talking about. The APA citation is where you got the strategy from. I don't want you making up strategies. There's no need to. There's lots of them out there. Go tell me where you got that one from. It might come from the Buell textbook, but it also might come from the internet. There's tons of them out there. I want to know the name of the strategy. So in the example that I use down here below, The name of the strategy is Anticipation Guide. That's the strategy. It's also a tool. It's also a graphic organizer, but it's also the strategy you're going to use. This is the strategy you're going to use to scaffold a student's learning, the Anticipation Guide. You flip through the book, you're like showing them pages. What do you think this is going to be about? You know, assessing prior knowledge. That's the purpose of an Anticipation Guide. All right. How do you use one? Well, that's the steps. That's what's next. So the steps involved in implementing the strategy. And some people say, well, you go and you copy it off the internet and then you have the students fill it out. That's the steps. No, take a look at all the steps involved in an Anticipation Guide. Every strategy has multiple steps. Why do I need you to write these down? Because I want you to be able to do the strategy 2 years from now when you're in your own classroom teaching. So write the steps down. And then I want you to talk about, look what the assignment says, strengths and weaknesses. Now, in my example, all I have is strengths, but I want you to also include weaknesses. So for example, the box web that you're using, which by the way is a strategy, for the purposes of this course, it's an after reading assessment strategy. And so I'm using it to see whether or not you know the 8 assessment types and what they are. The mind map is also a strategy for after reading that I'm using. It's also a great strategy for students with special needs because it's a visual learning tool, which a lot of students who have special needs or special populations have visual or better visual learners. And so therefore a graphic organizer like a mind map is great for them. I want you to be using your box web to inform or use to plan your mind map. Okay, so what I see in the box web should be very similar to what I see in the mind map, just without words, instead with pictures. By the way, you don't have to draw your mind map. Some people think that it needs to be drawn out. I mean, it's cool if you do. It takes a lot of work though. You may use pictures from the internet to do the mind map, but you know, be creative. Don't just throw something together. And oh, by the way, if you're using pictures from the internet, they all need to be cited. All right. Same thing with these graphic organizers if you're using them. All right, and then finally you need, so here I have strengths of the Anticipation Guide. There are weaknesses to Anticipation Guides. It's just not listed in this example. Don't forget to put weaknesses. So strengths and weaknesses. And then finally, the example. Well, here's an Anticipation Guide. So there's the example. Now, by the way, you're not allowed to use Anticipation Guides because every example I give is this same example of an Anticipation Guide. Please do not use this. That would be copying my work as your work. And that's not okay. All right. So that is the strategy notebook. 30 strategies spelled out just like this. How long would it take me to put something like this together? Not very long, especially if I'm already using ones that I've already created. All right. So the next assignment I want to talk about then is the strategy demonstration. And I kind of did this out of order, or you might think I did, but not really, because if you think about the strategy demonstration, the example that I have in here is going to be very similar. So if you use for this assignment, what I want you to do, so now you know the difference between a mentor text and a strategy. What I want you to do for this assignment is I want you to pick a topic, a subject. I want you to pick a grade level, and then I want you to go out and find a TEK. A TEK is an objective, a learning objective a student is supposed to have about a specific topic in a certain subject. Now, I don't want you to pick ELAR because ELAR is teaching reading. I want you to pick a content area subject. By the way, this is reading in the content area. Content areas are math, science, social studies. Reading is also considered a content area, but reading is teaching people how to read. Art, music, PE is actually a content area. All right, so I want you to pick a content area. Typically, it's going to be science, social studies, or mathematics for the purposes of this class. I want you to pick a grade level. I want you to pick a TEK. And then I want you to create a lesson. It doesn't have to be super detailed lesson, but I want you to pick a lesson that's going to teach the students that learning objective. And then I want you to pick a strategy, one of the strategies that we've talked about in this class. I would pick one that's different than the 3 or the 9 that you've already developed for your mentor text, and that would fit into one of the categories that would be in your strategy notebook, because you can use the exact same format when you're building this little lesson plan that you're going to explain to us in 3 to 5 minutes during your strategy demonstration. So here's what I need you to do. Is the TEK included? Look at this. Look how I grade this. Is the TEK included? 15 points. Okay, that's pretty simple. That's an easy 15 points. Does the content match the TEK? In other words, is what you're teaching actually go with the objective you're supposed to be teaching? That's 15 points. Another easy 15 points. Strategy usage. Did you do all the steps in the strategy? So you're actually, that's the key part of your demonstration when you do it, because it's the strategy demonstration. So that's 50 points. That's the majority of this. And if you follow all the steps and walk us through all the steps in the lesson and use it in the strategy, then you're going to get 50 points. And then gives good directions to the class. So did you explain it in a way that I understood it? Well, probably so. But did you explain it in a way that all your classmates understood it too? And then finally, was it well planned? In other words, do you have a good lesson plan format? I don't care which one you use. Tarleton has a lesson plan format. You're more than welcome to use that one, but I don't care which one you use. All right, so that's it right there. You need to sign up for a time. I think I've got 2 students who haven't signed up yet. Once everybody's signed up, I will send out the links for each group, because some of you, when you clicked accept, it disappeared and it didn't load into your calendar, which is what it's supposed to do. All right, so that's due by June 21st, which is a couple weeks from now. And then we're going to have the actually demonstrations on Monday and Tuesday following that. So it's due on a Sunday night by 11:59. So you're going to submit the lesson plan to this assignment, and then you're going to demonstrate it during the time that you're with the group of 4 or 3 students when you sign up for the time for the strategy demonstration assignment. And then finally, let's see. I think there was one more I wanted to go over with you. Strategy notebook, the mind map. All right. Actually, no, I wanted to talk about creating assessments for your textbook. So let's take a look at this assignment. For this purpose of this assignment, your textbook is the Buell textbook. What I want you to do is I want you to, after doing the readings about the different types of assessments, which if you went back and looked, there's a whole bunch of links to all those different readings about that. When you do in your box web, there's a link to all the different assessment types. While you're looking at all those, I want you to keep in mind the difference between authentic, traditional, criterion referenced, formal, informal, formative, and summative. Now, I didn't put norm referenced on here. The reason why I didn't is because a norm reference doesn't fit. Once you read about what a norm reference test is, there's no way to write one for the Buell textbook. However, all the others can be. Now, I want to explain something to you very quickly. A multiple choice test can be used as a formative or a summative assessment. Formative and summative don't have to do with the kind of test you give. It has to do with when you give it. So keep that in mind when you're doing this. Like if you say, well, here's a multiple choice test and it's formative, I need to know why you're saying that's formative. And then, because you could give you could give the same multiple choice test and say it's summative. I need to know why it's summative. Okay. And so one example of that is the box web is a form of an assessment for the purpose of this course. You're actually filling it out and you're getting a grade on it. So it is an assessment. And what I'm doing is I'm summatively assessing whether or not you understand the question type, the different assessment types. How am I doing that? Because I'm making you write the definitions of them in the box web itself. And so then I know at the end of that, do you know it? I'm going to even test it further when you have to do the mind map, because the mind map is a graphic representation. So are you able to really graphically represent the assessment types? And for those of you who are visual learners, this will help you to remember the different assessment types. All right. I don't know if you're going to have any other questions about these assignments. I'm hoping that this video helped clear those things up. If not, I apologize, because I try to give as good instructions as I can. Look, here's the thing. As I've said multiple times in this course, if you got any questions at all, shoot me an email. I'm pretty good at responding back quickly. If I have not responded back within a day to your email, then it probably got buried in my email. So please shoot me a reminder email. But I think I've already answered everybody's emails within a few minutes usually, but sometimes within an hour or two of the time that you sent them. Anybody who's requested a Zoom, I have Zoomed with, usually within, I mean, if I'm free and it's between 8 and 5 Monday through Friday, I'll Zoom with you right then, as many of you have found out. So if you ask for a Zoom with me, you might just get a Zoom invite within a few minutes. If that doesn't happen, we'll set up a Zoom time that works for both of us. I want to make sure that all these assignments are clear to you before you do them instead of after. Typically, the questions I get after is, why did I get the grade that I got? And by then it's too late to ask questions. So please, if you have any questions about any of the assignments or how to do them, it's okay to ask your friends and ask classmates, but sometimes they're as confused as you are. And I understand. I mean, I've been a student too. I want to make sure that you know I'm available for you at any time during this course to help you, to help clarify things. And when I'm realizing that people are real confused, I'll create a video like this to make sure everybody has opportunity to understand. I hope this video has been helpful for you. And again, if you still have questions, get in contact with me. If you call me at my office phone, it's forwarded to my cell. So you can get a hold of me that way as well. Anyway, have a great week. And I look forward to seeing you on Zoom for the strategy demonstrations coming up soon.